this is about the Essendon sitting outside the rights deal, which is something close to my heart. In terms of the business P&L, where do they reckon they stand in terms of not getting whatever the money is they get the other clubs get each year from the Telstra deal? I think, was it tied into a larger overall sponsorship, or was it just deciding that you just wanted to control your message? What was the thinking there?
So for those of you who don't know, we forego a certain amount of money from Telstra or the AFL for not being in the network. So when the new CEO arrived, he says, well, what's happening? Why are we losing this certain amount of money? Where are we making it up? So it's no doubt it's a mix of both. So we control full advertising on our website, which other clubs can't do. Telstra make a cut. So we pride ourselves in making that money back in online advertising. We also pride ourselves in making it back in terms of the subscription model of video. So we feel like we make that money back, then we've got to make it further through the engagement platforms and making sure that the content's right, and then that it's not just making money from the website, but it's the merchandise sales. So I'm pretty sure we'll have more merchandise sales than any other club, and whether that's in or outside the AFL network is a debatable point, I guess. But we feel like we've got the best engagement platform with the best content and the best opportunity for fans to get the news from the number one source. So it's a mixture of both. We try to make that money back through an advertising revenue model, as well as some subscription types of things. And interestingly enough, more organisations are now coming to us wanting to deal with us because we're independent. So it opens up a whole new market where they can't go and talk to other clubs because they're hamstrung with the deal. So I'll get 3 or 4 calls a week from organisations trying to sell us something, which is good, and it's also quite frustrating as well. But that's where it comes down to. We've got that point of difference. We can monetise it as best as we possibly can. But when it comes down to it, it's all about the fan experience. So we believe that we provide the best fan experience by being independent.
Michael Robertson from Channel 10 here. Just a question for Nick and also Jeramie. In terms of the streaming of the basketball games that live last year, that was trialled by your competitor club and also here locally, what is the sort of volume of streams that we're talking about, both from an Australian level or a Wildcats level and also from an NBA level?
I think from what I heard about the Trailblazers experiment with those 5 or 6 games, I think they had a couple thousand people pay, $3.99 to be able to watch the game. But one of the unique opportunities I think that exists if more and more teams are able to stream games, and I didn't mention this before, but is having a unique online broadcast crew. So it's distinct from the TV broadcast, which would be really fun, and maybe they're a little bit more loose and a little bit more conversational and more social media-like than your typical play-by-play and color analyst. And I know the Trailblazers have talked about that a little bit, and that's something that we've certainly thought about if we're going to be able to do that sometime in the near future.
I think there's someone here who does our broadcasts. Are you in the room? No? We trialled both. We trialled a $8 a game pay-per-view version, and we trialled a free one, and I think it varied between $700 and $1,100. The $700 was paid for, and I think the $1,100 was free. But mind you, we had some games were on Fox and some weren't, so it wasn't as if, as Jeramie says, we had a product that we could advertise and sell. It was just if you happened to log onto the website that week, you knew it was on. But they're roughly the numbers we had. But we were charging about $8 a game, and we really didn't have much resistance for that from our fan base at all. So because it's $35 or $38 for the cheapest ticket to the game, so comparatively it's a lot cheaper. So.
Might have time for one more up here.
For Jonathan and Jeramie and Nick, just what sort of interested to know what your clubs have in place protecting your players. I know Jonathan mentioned before Henry Slattery copying a lot on the internet. What sort of work do you do in your clubs protecting your players or assisting your players in dealing with, I guess it's almost like online bullying of what sort of things get said about them online? Are you encouraging them to not read it, or just interested in knowing how you look after your players in things that are being said about them online, which can get quite vicious sometimes.
From an Essendon point of view, I would certainly encourage them not to read it. I mean, it's a media platform, so if someone wants to read the newspaper about how they're performing, they can do it, and they can go on Facebook and Twitter and read what's going on. But I don't think many of our players will be active and go out and look at our Facebook site. But it's a really interesting point in terms of their own Facebook site and how they open that up. And we've had some interesting discussions with them around their own personal brand and what that looks like in the Facebook space. And so, there are players who have 2,000-3,000 friends in their Facebook account, which means that they're not their friends. There's people out there who could be doing the wrong thing, or if they could be getting the wrong message. So we've been really proactive in this space to talk and try and educate the players as best as possible. We don't want to say don't do social media, because we think there are some benefits there, especially as they can do their own personal thing, and that's fine with their own friends. But we've tried to educate them as best as possible. But it's no different for someone ringing up and talking on radio or reading the newspaper. So it's a player-by-player choice, I would imagine. And you take the good with the bad. As I said, if you're flying and everyone loves you, well, everyone loves to read that. But there are certainly players who would not take either and wouldn't read both.
I don't really have a good answer, to be honest. We don't do anything real official, but if we do find out that there's someone out there impersonating a player, we'll get in contact with Twitter directly and have the account canceled, which has happened a few times in the last 2 years. There was 2 different times, actually, somebody created a Steve Kerr account. Steve Kerr was our general manager at the time. And both times I had to text him myself and say, did you get on Twitter and I didn't know about it? And he's like, nope. So we immediately got in touch with Twitter and had that account canceled. So, but basically we only find out about it because some other fan will contact us and say, hey, is this really Steve Kerr? And that's where we kind of figure it out.
Yeah, and we have a great deal of help from the AFLPA and from the AFL. They have people who work in this space and look after it. So an interesting comment that we had a couple of days ago was one of our players was talking to a friend on the phone, and the friend said, I haven't spoken to you. The player said, I haven't spoken to you for a while. And the person at the other end said, what do you mean? We've been talking on Facebook this week. And so there are some people out there who have got really authentic accounts, and even their friends believe that they're the real person. So we've been working with the AFLPA on getting rid of those accounts and trying to stop that sort of thing, because obviously we don't want any of those sorts of things happening. But it is a huge issue, and it's only going to get bigger.
We had an import by the name of Kevin Lish that joined us from St. Louis, coached by Rick Majerus. You probably know the name. So he comes here and he's just out of university, and he creates a blog for his parents back home to see how he's going, and he talks about this new Wildcats car he's got and where he's living on the beach. He has 4 bad games, and our fans just go ruthless for him. They just log on to his blog and post, you got a week left, don't get used to the car on the beach, you're going home. So I find out the blog's missing on a Monday morning. I grab him and I say, look, the good news is he was coached by Rick Majerus, so he has already been insulted as best he can be. But it was a real issue, and to the point where I actually had to sit him down and say, you don't leave, and your contract is not safe, or you get cut when I say you get cut. Interestingly, he hits a 3-pointer on the buzzer in Townsville, and he won the MVP of the grand final series. But it is real. Like, I don't have anything personal on my Facebook apart from my direct number at work, and I take every call, but no pictures of kids, nothing about my family, because fans are passionate, and when you're in the public face, you got to cop it. And we teach our players that you were who you are before you came to the Wildcats, and you were just as good a person before. So whatever they say will disappear when you take the singlet off. It's as simple as that.
Thank you very much. Let's thank the panel, Jeramie, Jonathan, Anthony, Nick, and Alana.